guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another tag. I did my birth story tag as a great way to keep memories with myself, but today I'm going to be doing the FEDISBEST tag. I want to do something more about like FEDISBEST because I do believe that whatever you decide to do, as long as you're feeding your baby and taking care of your baby, you are doing the right thing. I don't feel like one is any better than the other. As long as the baby is happy, loved, and fed, you're doing okay. I'm doing this tag in collaboration with a bunch of moms who wanted to do the FEDISBEST tag. We're going to leave a playlist in all of our descriptions so you can look at everybody's feeding journey and you can see what they chose to do or how things progress for them. If you see me looking down, I'm going to be looking at my phone. I've got all the questions here to be able to follow off of so that I can answer these questions the same way that everybody else is going to be answering them. Anyways, let's start on the first question. So the first question says, tell me about your feeding journey. So from the time Charlotte was born, I actually was very lucky that she literally latched on great right away. I had no problems on that part as far as her latching or getting anything, at least I had assumed. I do remember that when we had left the hospital, or at least shortly after we left the hospital, she wasn't gaining weight that fast. They did tell me to self-express with my hand into a little cup, and then after she was done nursing to be able to pour a little of the milk in her mouth. I honestly only did that like once or twice. I felt really uncomfortable. I was afraid that I was gonna like make her choke on the breast milk or whatever. So I didn't end up continuing to do that, but by the next appointment, I think it was the 2-week appointment, she was gaining enough that I didn't have to worry about it anymore. She lost just about the percentage that would have been worrisome before going home from the hospital. Actually, it would have been like day 3, I think, or day 4. When we went back after leaving the hospital is when they said that I needed to start cup feeding her so that she could get more milk after and kind of to top her off. So I did that, like I said, a couple times and didn't really feel super comfortable. So then at the 2-week checkup, I had just continued to nurse regularly, as frequently as possible, and anytime she needed. And by the 2-week appointment, I was okay, and they told me I was good to go and didn't have to worry about any added feedings or anything like that after. So that was awesome. Charlotte is almost 19 months now and just recently started asking to nurse again. And I think it's more of a comfort thing. I don't know if it's teething or maybe she just isn't feeling well or going through a tough time developmentally or whatever. But I definitely think it's more of a calming thing for her now, as I'm obviously not producing anymore. But I did exclusively breastfeed up to 6 months. At 6 months, I actually did introduce her to formula. I was a full-time working mom and it was really hard on me. I think she was eating like 16 ounces while she was at my dad's house every day, and I was probably producing like 6 or 7 in 4 pumping sessions at work. So I was getting so stressed about not being able to meet it. Some days I'd end up getting close to 12, but most days I would get very little from all those pump sessions, and it was really, really taking a toll on me. It stressed me out beyond belief. I got to the point where it really sucked because I was in school, I was working and all that kind of stuff, and I had a hard time because she wanted to nurse to sleep every time, and she was very attached to me, which I didn't have a problem to, but the fact that like I couldn't get the help from other people because I was barely pumping enough for her to have breast milk while I was at work, much less to give her breast milk that I had pumped for a time while I was home and could be nursing her. I felt guilty about that, which mom guilt is a whole other topic that I'm not even gonna get into this video, but mom guilt is so real and it's so crazy. Anyways, I'm sure I'll touch on mom guilt again through this because mom guilt played a big role in how I decided everything with my feeding journey. Anyways, so at 6 months, I decided to give her formula. So she was having 1 formula bottle a day before bed so that she was comfortable with taking a formula bottle before bed, meaning Dart could feed her before bed, anybody could feed her before bed, but I also gave her a bottle before bed because I wanted it to become routine. And she also got 1 formula bottle a day while she was with my dad. And that slowly turned into 2 formula bottles and 2 bags of breast milk, then 1 bag of breast milk, the rest formula. It slowly turned into that. I was okay with that, and by the time it became more and more, I was well more equipped mentally to be able to handle that. But it was really hard. Again, here plays the mom guilt, that I felt like because I was giving her formula that I had failed, or that I wasn't good enough, and that I didn't do what I was supposed to, and that's not right at all. As soon as I started giving her formula, the stress relieved off of me, and I was producing 12 to 16 ounces every day, pumping. That I was regularly not doing that before. But because that stress was relieved off of me, it made the world of a difference, and I was able to pump more. So that being said, I do believe that that really changed my breastfeeding journey. I don't know that I would have made it as long as I did without just implementing one little change, which is just adding one extra bottle of formula a day. Well, actually two, but one with my dad and one with us. I think that made a huge difference for me. So as far as my journey, it's not over yet. Actually, I think right about now, I'm planning to like fully wean her off, because I just want my body back more than anything. But here we are at 19 months, and I see nothing wrong with it. Moving forward, just me personally, I'm ready to be done with it. I did essentially stop breastfeeding at 1 year. I just stopped actively breastfeeding. I would do it when she really wanted it. I would just kind of do it here and there when she wanted it, or certain situations that I deemed fit for it. It wasn't her real source, because she was actually getting cow's milk then too. So obviously my supply dropped, and I have like nothing now. Question number 2. Before baby was born, did you have any plans for feeding? I had planned to breastfeed from the beginning. I didn't really know anything about breastfeeding myself, aside from like what I had learned from everybody around me. But I planned to try for it, and if it didn't work, that was just it. I actually didn't really buy any bottles because I was so set on breastfeeding. I had got the Kindy system so that I could use that for breast milk storage. And if it didn't work, you know, I could obviously just donate that to somebody or give it to a friend that I knew that would use it. But my plan was from the beginning to breastfeed. I did think that I would probably exclusively breastfeed for a year, and that I probably wouldn't even introduce formula. But you know, that's just kind of the name of the game. You can say all these things that you will and won't do, and then you get there, and sometimes those things do change, and you do things that you thought you may not have done. But overall, I made all the right decisions that worked for me. Question number 3. Did you ever feel pressured into the decisions you made for feeding? So personally, I don't feel like I felt pressured, aside from like this unspoken elephant in the room of mom guilt. At 6 months, when I got to the point that I really didn't think I could go any further in my breastfeeding journey or have to deal with any of that, I felt so much guilt, like I was a failure because of not breastfeeding anymore. So in that, I felt pressure to continue breastfeeding and not stop, because I couldn't give up, I couldn't be a failure, I couldn't let down Charlotte. But realistically, it was me pressuring myself, and that was just causing even more stress and more heartache on myself, because it was just making everything harder. So there was pressure on that side. I don't feel like anybody around me gave me pressure. Nobody had anything to say about the fact that I was breastfeeding or the fact that I wasn't when I started giving her formula. You know, you do get those little things from people about breastfeeding when you're breastfeeding in public or when you're breastfeeding around people. But other than that, there wasn't really any pressure one way or another. There are just some people who are unsupportive of breastfeeding, who are unsupportive of bottle feeding, and maybe the things that they say don't really rub you the right way. But I don't feel like anybody ever pressured me. Question number 4. How do you feel about your feeding journey? Is there anything you wish you could have done differently? Honestly, I feel like I did everything like I should have. If there's anything I could do differently, I definitely wouldn't have been as hard on myself. And the next baby that we have, I definitely will take it a lot more easy on myself as far as feeding. I definitely want to be more okay with the fact that, like, you know, even if at 2 months, you know, I don't have milk in the fridge and I want to go do something, or I have a lot going on and I need someone to be with her, that I shouldn't feel bad and I shouldn't feel like, well, I can't do this because then I'd have to go home and pump and make this whole list. I want to be more comfortable with the fact that, like, other people should be able to help me, and thanking them and appreciate them and taking advantage of the help that they're willing to offer, even if that means her bottle feeding or her having formula. I definitely feel like I need to take a little bit off of my shoulders in that regard. So if there's anything I can change, it would be to go back and tell myself, like, stop stressing so much about this. Just do what's going to make you happy and do what's best for you and Charlotte. Number 5, what are your tips and advice for feeding? Well, first tip and first advice that is the most important thing is you have to do what is right for you. You cannot do what your mom says you need to do. You can't do what your best friend says you need to do. You can't do what your neighbor says you need to do, what the internet says you need to do. Even your pediatrician, I truly believe you have to take a lot of stuff that they say with a grain of salt. They may feel that you have to breastfeed and you really just don't feel like breastfeeding, and that's okay. That's up to you, and vice versa. In the end, you have to do what's right for you, because if you're not happy about what you're doing, it's not going to be a good environment for yourself, much less for the baby or anybody around you. Other than that, as far as breastfeeding, my biggest tip is to not give up. That first month is the hardest month in breastfeeding. If you can get through that first month, for the most part, you are free sailing. The pain, the stress, all that kind of stuff totally starts to subside after a month of getting used to it. Now, obviously, that's not for everybody. If your baby has, if your baby has reflux, if your baby has colic, or your baby has any issues like that, that could definitely extend the time of when you start to calm down off of it. Or, if your baby has a bad latch or a lip tie or a tongue tie or something, that can also extend that time of when it gets easier. But for me, I do believe that sticking it out is the right thing to do. The other tip of advice is to always follow your gut. If you feel like your baby's not getting enough and you think you need to supplement, then do it. If they tell you to supplement and you know your baby's getting enough and they're gaining and everything's okay, it's okay to go with your gut. That being said, you have to always make sure that your baby is fed. If you're not producing, I know how hard it can be, and sometimes the media and society makes it seem like something's going wrong with you, but it's not. It's okay to choose something else. That's why there's other things available for you. So just pick whatever is best for you and stick to it. Question number 6, what are your feeding must-haves? So I'm not gonna go like, oh, well, you have to have bottles and stuff like that. I'm gonna talk about a few things that I really think, as far as breastfeeding, that helped me out a ton. Number 1, the Kindy storage bags were amazing. I would just pump into regular bottles. I know you can pump straight into the bags, but I would just pump into regular bottles, and then I would bring that all to my parents' house, and then I would pre-portion out the milk into the Kindy bags, and all my parents had to do was defrost the bag, stick the nipple on, and feed it to Charlotte. So easy. I didn't have to tell them, okay, make sure you only pour out this many ounces, and then you do, so I could have 4-ounce bottles, 2-ounce bottles, whatever she needed in that moment. If she needed to be topped off, they could get a small one. I didn't have to worry about milk being wasted, and that was a huge thing for me. Now, the other thing that's really good about breastfeeding is the Hakka or anything like that. I know there's off-brands of it, but the Hakka is amazing. It's a little silicone, they call it a manual breast pump, but essentially it suctions onto your breast, and while you're feeding on the other side, it would, any of the letdown or the leakage that was coming out would go into there, and it would store it, so you could use that milk. Now, that's awesome because that's a way to pump without actually being stuck to a pump, and you can do that while you're nursing, or even if you're engorged, you can just stick that on there and it'll help pull out all that milk, and you could go freeze that. And that's a great way to build your stash without actually having to sit connected to a pump all the time. Another thing that's really important is some kind of nipple cream. That was seriously my saving grace. Being able to put a little bit of some sort of nipple cream or coconut oil or something on your nipples after the baby nurses really does help. It's skin, just like your lips per se, and if you lick your lips all the time and you don't ever put chapstick on or something on your lips, you will get chapped lips and it will hurt. Just imagine that. Obviously, a baby is going to be attached to your nipple, and you're going to get chapped if you don't put something on there to try to moisturize it or some sort of protection against what's going on. As far as when I started formula feeding, I use the Kirkland formula, which is the Costco brand. It's actually made by Similac. I'm pretty sure it actually is, but obviously they can't say that it is. And it worked just fine. Being able to have one of those little containers that had the formula powder already pre-portioned out was awesome, because I could do it at the beginning of the week and it would be in her backpack and it could stay in there. So if my dad was out and needed a bottle for her, he was fine. If we were out, I mean, generally if we were out, I would always just nurse her. But if Dart took her out somewhere, he had a formula as well, and it was quick and easy and accessible, which is really awesome. The bottle that I love the most, I'm going to link all this stuff down in the description. So if you're interested in any of these things I talk about, any of the products, I'll link it all down in the description. But one of my favorite bottles was a Newbie 360 bottle, and it was really awesome because Charlotte was just kind of a picky baby as far as her bottles, but this one, she literally could be laying all the way on her back, she could be sat up, she could be on her side, any way, and she could still get the milk. And it was awesome because I wouldn't have to make sure she was propped up properly, or if she was sitting up too far or anything like that. It worked great for us. That was my favorite bottle. I don't even know if they sell it anymore. I had a hard time towards the end when I was trying to replace them finding new ones. So if I can't find them, I'll try to find something similar, which is probably what I'll use with baby number 2. But we'll see. Another big thing, no matter what you're doing as far as feeding, is Babble dish detergent. I know regular dish detergent works just fine, but the Babble bottle dish detergent made a huge difference for me, especially with breast milk. Breast milk did leave kind of like a residue with regular soaps, so this really helped get those bottles nice and clean, which I felt better about. And having a good scrubby brush. I just had the Munchkin one, which I actually had to replace pretty often. Maybe I don't know, bend it really hard or push a bottle brush in there too hard, but it would always, the handle would fall off. But they're pretty cheap and they work great until the handle falls off. So I would definitely recommend getting one of those. If you have any questions about breastfeeding or anything like that, I'm definitely an open book as far as my journey. Feel free to leave any questions down in the comments. Also, if I forget to link something down in the description and you'd like to know where it's from, or you'd like to know how I did it or how I got it or whatever, definitely leave that down in the comments as well. But I will leave as much as I can down in the description, as well as the playlist of all the other mamas who are going to be joining in on this FEDISBEST tag. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love if you'd press that red subscribe button and then press the bell after to get notified every time that I post. Give this video a thumbs up and have a great night. Thanks. Bye.